Quite a while ago now, I made a video on the most common fake Disney pins, mainly focusing on the series of hidden Mickeys that you see faked so often, and you just always find them on the cast member lanyards and pin boards in the parks. One of these series that was among the most faked of all time was the Walt Disney World 2010 Past Attractions and Resort Hidden Mickeys Hidden Mickey Pins. So because these pins are so heavily faked, and some of them are a little weird looking or it might be difficult to know what they are representing, I decided to collect authentic versions of the whole set. And so when I went to Disneyland this June, I had the kind of weird goal of trying to trade for fake versions of all these pins so that I could put together a full real versus fake comparison of these pin sets. It actually ended up being a lot more difficult than I anticipated. I could not find all of these in the parks. I think there were 4 of them that I had to find online. Thank you to the people who traded them to me. But I now have a full real versus fake comparison for these 2 sets of hidden Mickey pins. So for today, I wanted to go and side by side show the differences between the authentic versions and the fake versions of these pins as kind of the most comprehensive way to get an eye for all the different things that you can look for with these types of hidden Mickey pins. So these are the hidden Mickey pins that don't have the Mickey waffling on the back, and so they really are the hardest type to figure out whether or not they're real. But at the end, I will show the easy ways to figure out the newer sets of hidden Mickeys that do have the Mickey waffling back. Those at least generally have some pretty nice and clear rules to play by. So in general, if you're trying to figure out if a pin is real or not, the best thing to do is to be able to compare it to a guaranteed authentic real pin. Sometimes there can be variances in the appearance of real pins, especially if it's like a mystery pin set that's been produced in numerous batches. There can be slight color changes, but generally knowing what the real one looks like is a good guide to go by. But with these fake pins, these have been faked for so long and in so many different generations. The ones that I have faked, you may have a totally different looking fake. But by having all these pins here, hopefully you can see some of the few variations. Here's a quick little overview of all of the pins together. The authentic one is always on the left and the fake one is on the right, and I'll keep that standard throughout this whole video. For some of these off the bat, you can see there is a huge difference between the real versus fake, but for others you may not see too much of a difference until we get up a little bit closer. Just as a quick aside, you cannot use the magnet test to help identify fake pins. It does not work at all. As you can see here, the magnet does not even stick in the slightest to any of these fake pins. Magnets sometimes can stick to authentic pins based on the type of metal it's made of, so don't bother getting out a magnet at all. It is a total myth. The magnet test does not work at all when trying to figure out pin authenticity. So I'm going to start off with the one that is the most visually distinct and then continue through the Resort Hidden Mickeys pin series. This one here is the Polynesian Floor Rock Hidden Mickey pin. You can see the real one here looks kind of like an actual rock, all gray shades. But then there's the fake pin, and this is the coloring that I've seen on every single version of this fake pin, is that it is bright yellow, brown, and black. There really is no contest between these pins. If you see this weird yellow and brown looking rock, it is absolutely, very definitely, easily known to be fake. It's something you'll see commonly for most of all of these pins. The real one has these nicely defined lines. The enamel is usually pretty nice. Now I will say quality can always be variable on pins, but on this fake one, it's definitely super streaky, brush stroked enamel. All of the lines are just not quite as crisp and as nice. The fake one isn't super noticeably thinner, but feeling the weight in your hands, the fake one is much lighter. Weighing them on a scale, you can see that the real one weighs 18 ounces, but the fake one only weighs 14. So these type of cheap fake pins are often made of cheaper lightweight metal. Here's a look at the back of these pins. So you can see the backs do look a little bit different. All the elements on the authentic one are larger. They do though both have large nubs on them, although it's the fake one that has nubs that are too large. So you always want nice sharp and pointy nubs like on the real one. But if you see nubs that just look like they're too big, that can be a sign of being fake. You can also see on our fake one here, the spacing on the numbers is a little bit tight. Our real one has much better spacing between the 1 of 5 on them. Next we have the Animal Kingdom Lodge shower curtain pin, and our real one and our fake one. And this fake one here has a lot of problems with it. So first of all, in the center Mickey, you can see just how dipped in that paint is. It has much more of that soft enamel look. So if you ever see a paint that's super dipped in and wet looking, that's typically soft enamel, those are basically always fake. Up at the very top, it's missing a whole bunch of enamel. And then down here, it's the dark blue where it's supposed to be white. So this is an example of a super poor quality fake. Where again, yes, authentic pins can have some small little paint dips or flaws, but this is fake pin flawed. This is kind of as bad as you can get. You can also see the color difference where the real one is much more of a royal blue, and then the fake pin is a really dark navy. They basically are about the same thickness. The fake one feels a little bit lighter, but there's not a big measurable difference in weight. But then you'll notice on the back, the fake one surprisingly doesn't look too bad. Again, there's a little bit of differences in sizing. What you can see for this fake one, again, it has this word like the nubs are too big on it. They're kind of like supersized nubs. But it's really the front that totally gives this pin away. The back of this one is much more subtle, much more similar to the authentic, but you can see the differences when comparing the two. Next up we have what I believe is the Yacht Club Hidden Mickey, and you can very clearly see the color difference between these two pins. In general, the fake pins do not match yellow shades very well at all. So the real one is like this buttery yellow orange, and then the fake one is much more fluorescent. The fakes can vary in kind of their yellowness, but they're just kind of always this too bright yellow to them. And here you can see, of course, the authentic pin might have a little bit of streakiness, but the fake pin has entirely streaky, brushy enamel strokes. But these guys are also about the same thickness, and then they also have about the same weight to them. But the fake one, it's very easy to tell from the back because it doesn't have any nubs at all. So again, our authentic one has those really just nice sharp nubs, and then the fake one has none at all. Also, you can see how much more squished together the text of 4 of 5 is on this one. It's much more nicely spaced out on the authentic. So if you're iffy about whether or not the color is right, the back of this pin is going to very clearly tell you it's fake. Next up we have the Caribbean Beach Hidden Mickey pin, and kind of right off the bat you can see the differences with the colors. The real one is kind of like a burnt orange exterior. The fake one here is much more reddish, kind of pinkish. The metal lines on the real one are really nice. On the fake one, they're just kind of extra thick, a little cruddy looking. You can also see how much more blobular the Mickey head icon is here. Typically on the authentic ones, it should be a pretty nicely formed Mickey head. Occasionally it can get a little blobby, but when it's this level of blob where it almost just looks like a big circle, that is definitely a fake one. You can also see just how super streaky and brush stroked the enamel is on the fake one. They are about the same thickness, but the fake one is a little bit lighter than the authentic one. Real one about 14 ounces and fake one only 11. But if the front wasn't enough to tell, the back definitely is. Here again we have one that is totally missing nubs. Real one has the nice nubs that it should, and on the fake there's almost no spacing in between where it says 2 of 5. Those really are among the two biggest indicators if these types of pins have the nubs that they should, looking like how they should, and if the spacing in the number looks good. As well, the back stamp on the fake is also more difficult to read, and not as crisp as on our real one. Finally, from our Resort Hidden Mickeys is the Beach Club one, and I'm ending with this one because it's definitely the most subtle out of all of them so far. But you should be able to tell that there definitely is a difference between the yellows. The authentic one is a kind of pure yellow, and then the fake one is a little bit more of a limey yellow. You can see it on the fake. There's also a little issue with the enamel on the top. And then you can see just how bad the brush strokes in the enamel on the fake one is. That's kind of really standard Hallmark, just really badly brushed enamel. On the real one, you can see a little bit of brush texture, but especially in person, the real one is much glossier and nicer. But the weight of these pins actually feels exactly the same. So this is one of the rare fakes that doesn't feel like it's hollow inside. You'll notice the backs of the pins also do look quite similar. The big indicator here is on the authentic one, it has the nubs as they should, whereas on the fake one, they are too small. They're more of like the little nublets. But you can also see kind of how different the text sizing is on these. And that's why it's always helpful to have a comparison to what the real one should look like. We're then moving on to our past attractions set of hidden Mickeys, and I'm starting out with the If You Had Wings one because you'll see this one on boards everywhere. It's a little bit weird looking and people generally don't know what it is. This fake from the front is not too bad looking compared to some of the ones that you'll see out there. But if you can see on the side of this pin, it's almost like it's chipped away or corroding away, that it's just such cheap quality that it's almost like the pin is just disintegrating. And then you can also see on this one, the Mickey head is a little bit blobbier and not as nicely as defined on the real one. The fake one is also like brush stroke city in terms of the enamel. You can also see some dips in the bird on the fake one, and the real one is much cleaner and nicer looking. So decently similar thickness between the two, but the fake one is definitely much lighter weight. The real one, 21 ounces, and the fake one, only 18 ounces. But you'll see the back of this one is not the worst looking. It does have the nubs there, but it has the case where those nubs, when they're kind of too big, it's like they're too thick. So it has those like too thick, beefy looking nubs there. But otherwise you can see it's just a little slight differences in the sizing of things, the sizing of the text. But you can tell just by feeling this one how lightweight it is that it is fake. Next up we have the Remember Opening October 1971 clock pin. So right off the bat you can see this fake has a big issue with the enamel on the M there. So that's more than just a paint error, that is definitely a flaw in the making of this pin. Pretty much all of the brushed metal on this pin is super streaky, whereas the real one is much nicer there. The real one is also just much crisper visually in terms of all of the metal lines on it. But this is one where the fake one is definitely a little bit thinner than the authentic one, and there is also a definite difference in weight. Real one at 25 ounces and fake one only 18. So it's very easy to tell the difference by just feeling the weight. And so here again is the back of them, and again you'll notice that the backs do look very similar. But as has been the case before, the fake one has those super thick, extra kind of like sturdy looking nubs. The real one just has kind of the nice sharp pointy nubs. But otherwise it's just kind of this very slight differences in sizing on the back. It's just holding the fake one, it feels like it's made of plastic, whereas the real one feels like an actual metal pin. Next up we have the Horizons Butler. And you can see the different colorings between the two, how the real one is kind of this really nice shade of gray, and the fake one is very kind of blah looking and dark. The lines are just really nice and crisp on the real one, and everything just looks a little bit muddy on the fake one. You again see just how brush strokey the fake one is. And so with this one you can really see the difference between the colors and the crispness of the lines. Pretty similar thickness, not really much of a difference in weight. The fake one does feel a little bit more hollow though. Once again we have the back of the pins, so you can see how different the sizing is to some of the elements. With the fake one, again, it's those kind of like extra wide looking nubs. The authentic one does have a little flaw. It's like one of the nubs kind of got broken off, but you can see that other nub there looking how it should. On the fake one also, the spacing is a little tight between the of 5, whereas on the real one it's a little bit all more evenly spaced out. And the pin trading stamp is a little bit more nicely legible on the real one. Second to last, we have the Swan Boats pin. This is one for the fake. You will see it in so many slightly different colors, but the authentic one is like this nice peachy beige. You can see how orange-ish the fake one is. The fake one also, again, lovely, super streaky brush lines on them. The authentic one is much nicer with its gloss. The metal lines are much nicer and crisper. And if you can tell, the fake one is ever so slightly larger than the real one. It's just a little bit bigger actually. Pretty similar thicknesses between the two, but there is a little bit of difference in weight. The authentic one around 21 ounces and fake one only 18 ounces. Once again, we have the backs of them. So most of the elements on the fake one are a little bit smaller. You can see the difference in the nubs here, where again, the authentic one has those nice, sharp, kind of pointy nubs, and the fake one has nubs that are both a little bit too small and fat. but the spacing of the 3 of 5 doesn't look too bad, but then the authentic one has a much sharper, more distinct pin trading label. And then finally, our last pin from the comparison is the SMRT Robot. So you can see there are some slight color differences between them, but the fake one overall doesn't look too bad. But can you see what is the real big kind of giveaway difference between the two of them? So if you look at the center plate, you can see on the real one, all those lines are connected in. Whereas on the fake one there, you can see how these lines don't actually match up. Like there was an error when they were making the copy of the mold. So once you see that error, it's pretty clear and distinct. But both are pretty similar thicknesses, relatively similar weights. Fake one, again, just feels a little bit more hollow. And then we have our last comparison of backs. So the nubs on the fake one don't look all too bad. There's overall not too many differences between the backs. You can see how kind of squished down the Hidden Mickey pin text is. But with this one, the giveaway is mainly the subtle metal difference on the front and also the fact that the fake one just, again, feels a little bit more like plastic, less substantial than the actual metal pin. So since all of these pins that I've shown are the older style of pin that just have the sandblasted back, I just wanted to quickly go over what the newer types of Hidden Mickeys, the one that have the waffle back, should look like, because these pins are so much easier, have much cleaner rules to abide by, and are far less ambiguous than all of the ones that I showed in terms of the backs. So this is a newer Hidden Mickey pin, and you can definitely see it does have pretty brush strokey enamel, kind of what I showed in a lot of the fake pins. So some of the more current Hidden Mickeys can have kind of really brush strokey looking enamel, but you can feel the weight of this pin. This feels like an actual pin. It's kind of how it should be. All of the metal on the front is really nice. And then this is basically what the back of an authentic Hidden Mickey with the Mickey waffle print should look like. First of all, no border on the back, so the Mickey heads run nice and clean and smooth to the edges. We again have our nice sharp pointy nubs on there. Clear distinction between our number Hidden Mickey on there. And so it's much more difficult for the fake versions to replicate the backs of these. However, I do have a few authentic Hidden Mickeys to show that do break these rules. It truly is only a handful of them, but you do need to know that you really have to look at a pin holistically. So here I have this authentic Hidden Mickey pin. I myself got it from a Hidden Mickey mystery pouch, but if we turn it over and look at the back, this pin has absolutely no nubs. Why did they make this pin with no nubs? I am not sure. But you can see everything else about the back of the pin looks totally beautiful. The metal is super nice and shiny, no border there, but for some reason an authentic Hidden Mickey with no nubs. But gasp, this pin is an authentic Hidden Mickey with no nubs and a border. So you can see by that border, it means that the Mickey pattern doesn't go flush to the edge. And then there's no nubs on this, even though there technically should be room for one. So this is the Tinkerbell ice cream pin. This is a completer pin. And there were actually some border issues with most of this series. So here's a few more pins from this series. And along the edges, you can see there are ever so slight borders. So these were the very first authentic Hidden Mickey pins to come with slight borders on them. But you may see slight borders on these. On the Tink one, you won't see nubs, but these are the very few exceptions to the rule. So if you see a very large looking border on a Hidden Mickey pin, if you see it without nubs, nubs that are super small, those work more so as a rule for these newer style of Hidden Mickey pins. So hopefully that's helpful to see a whole bunch of direct side-by-side comparisons for real versus fake Hidden Mickey pins. I really love to collect authentic Hidden Mickey pins because when you get a real one, you really can see the difference. And then I just think the concept of them is really fun, and I feel like especially lately, Disney's coming out with some really awesome Hidden Mickey pin sets. But if you feel like you still need more information about fake pins and even kind of fake pins beyond just Hidden Mickey pins, I have my Pin Trading Basics playlist where I have a whole bunch of other videos talking about fake Disney pins. But thanks for watching!